So let them know.
I
Maybe.
did. I sent the message through Teams and I sent the message through WhatsApp with the link. So
Okay.
let's wait until 9:05. If I mean I'm already recording, so let's give them until 9:05. If not, I'll start the presentation and hopefully they can access it um, later on today or anytime this weekend.
So we are going to study chapter 10, right?
Today is just chapter 10, correct?
Okay. Professor, are we going to have classes with you again next semesters?
I haven't received the information of the schedule yet, to be honest with you. But I'll ask student affairs to see what are they going to do.
Okay.
I know they're working already on the schedule. I know they were setting up all the courses and everything, but I'm not sure the status yet.
All right.
Mhm.
But
What
the
I did for
curriculum
the
is there,
rest,
right?
I don't know if you have had the opportunity to access the class lately. What I did is I added course information all the way to, hold on that I'm accessing the page right now, almost basically to the end. I put it all the way to April 1st. So all I'm missing is to put information of April.
Mhm.
But that basically, so at least you guys have the information for the rest of the month of March. And then this weekend I'll work in the month of April. So it will be all the way to the end of the class. But all the information, the assignments, photos, questions, chapters overview, all of that is already posted. There's some chapters from the review. The book is too big. I don't know if you guys had the opportunity to review it. It's 18 chapters. We don't have time to review all of them. So the chapters that are um, very like with local information more relevant to United States or sometimes even to certain areas within the United States, I remove them. So in the way that we review more a general aspect of what human resources is. So for example, from chapter 10, we're gonna review chapter 13, we're gonna review 14, 15. So I jumped two of them that after I read them, I think we could use the time in some other chapters instead. So in that way we can review more relevant information. So that's when you're gonna see a little bit of the jump on the sequence from 1 through 10 and then to 13 to 18. And that's it is 9:05. So I'm gonna start. Couple of you are already here, so that's good. Welcome everybody. I hope you had a great weekend. And Sarah's here too. Hello, Sarah. Okay, so we are going to start the review of chapter 7, and I was finally, I think, able to fix a feature that I have in my computer to show the screen a little bit bigger. So I think you now see the information a little bit bigger. So, good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here today. Today, we are reviewing chapter 10 of the book, which is about managing careers and retention. The purpose of this book in general is to basically create that union between the employers, the supervisors, and the employees to see how we can make the company grow with the employees that we have. In other words, um, to retain the employees as much as possible, and that is done by providing services to the employees, providing benefits to the employees. So if you provide, for example, health insurance, paid vacations, sick days, all of that, that is called fringe benefit. That is very attractive for employees. Also, for example, companies that offer bonuses and things like that. So companies get very, very creative about what they can do with the employees in order to make that connection and that long-term relationship that they're basically after. And so basically, this also is important because it helps employee to determine training, retention, promotions, job developments, new duties, new responsibilities, and the expansion of the organization. So the first objective of this book is everything that is about uh, the support, how we can support our employees to keep them in the company, to make sure that they stay with us for a long time. So that is part of what we talk about the career management model. That is basically, like I say here, it is a long-term process of investment, and this helps the company to keep the base and the employees that are not at that level of skills to enhance the skills and improve their duties and responsibilities. So the whole purpose of the model is that it's in a constant loop, how you assess the employee, make sure that the employees have the skills, whatever they're lacking, to train them. Then the research is in the part of the company about how do we do things, how can we improve the employees. There is many ways of training employees, there are many ways of providing services to the employees, and as you know now with technology, is constantly improving, developing app, developing softwares. So all of that is important for the company to be aware of it. So when they're doing some type of research or investment in the best software to train or the best seminar to offer, so that goes into the decision and the set goals. So sometimes company, by being in a constant loop, for example, certain application or certain company that they hire from outside to train the employees, maybe next year or in 6 months when they offer another training, they will be using somebody else. And as a matter of fact, in the purpose of training, variety is very important, especially companies outsource the training services because each company does everything differently. So employees have the opportunity to experience different types of training, different types of resources. So from this, we go into what companies call that is the career development. The important aspect of the career development is that one we go through first the management approach of investment and resources and training. We are basically ready. The employer is basically ready to go into that occupational status, into how we're gonna do this, how we value the employee, what opportunities are we supposed to give them. Um, Something that is important to consider in this type of process of career development is, for example, four important aspects that are the creation of the future, but the creation of the future that the company has to evaluate is the future of the company plus the future of the employee. So where do we want to go from here? How the employee fits in this projection and how the employee benefits from this type of future. This is very important to consider when you are considering changes in the company, because employees have to be very open minded to the change and accept the change. And most of the time, what happens when we talk in the company about change, employees start worrying about it because the first thing that it crosses their mind is my position is going to be eliminated, I'm going to get fired, my department is going to disappear. So all of that is very important to consider and see how we can do that transition into the future and that the employee fits within those plans of the company. That actually is connected to the values. Like the employers have to know very well the values of the employee, how important it is, the interests, the strengths, the abilities, how good they are with the customer, how good they are with their position, because all of that helps the company to determine what kind of training they're offered to the employees and how they can use the employee in the future. So, in other words, the training could be for an entire department, or they can actually train just one employee to prepare them for another company. For example, if they see that the employee has people skills, co-workers listen to him, is has the tendency of being a good leader, then the company can put this employee in a training management process to train this employee to become a manager of one of the departments, a director of one of the departments. So there are different types of training that the company can offer without leaving, of course, anybody behind. Ideally, it's training for all employees of the department, but depending on the needs of the company, then they can add exclusively certain training for just certain group of students. This part of the action, this part of behavior that the employer can absorb is because it helps them to meet their goals, what they need. If the company, for example, is growing and it's a company that is in the sale business and is growing, maybe they have one sales office, one sales department, and maybe the company decide, okay, we're gonna split the sales department in two, and we're gonna have a department for national sales, and we're gonna have a department for international sales. And then the company can go and say, okay, we're going to have both departments. What are the needs of that department that is the one that is going to be responsible for the national sales? What goals can we set up? What is the action plan? How they're going to serve the customers? And then from the international, they do the same thing, but in the long run, when they do a comparison, they're going to notice that the goals are different, the action plan is different, the decision making and the strategic plan that they have to develop is different, because you're talking, for example, of having um, sales with people of different languages, different countries, different trade commission policies. Is different following policies for selling in your country that may be selling in another country, and that comes into like tax and regulations and policies. For example, um, the here in the United States, the Department of Environment, their products from other countries that they're not allowing the country. Like if you buy certain products for gardening, for example, some countries have used poison or use minerals or use something that is not allowed here in the country. So when you try to buy it online, you're not able to buy it because if once it goes to customs, the package will not go through and you'll never get it. So those are the things, for example, that the company has to consider. And within the employees, when they're doing training and development, part of that helps them to know their employees. Like, for example, if they have employees within the company that speak other languages, then basically they might want to train those employees and transfer them to the international sale division, because then they're going to be able to help customers in their own languages. And a lot of people looks to, like that communicating somebody with the same language or the same experience, or know what the country is going through, so provides better personalized services. So this helps the company to explore, actually, um, for example, the education needs, uh, the environment that they need to develop, the occupational research, developing of job descriptions, how the job descriptions needs to be structured, what are the requirements, and all of that. So all of this, believe it or not, just this part is all related to the training. How we do the training, that will benefit in the long run the company. So if you look at it, I just talk about a lot of benefits for the company, how to expand, how to get resources, how to do better things. But in the long run, the person, the number one person benefit from everything is the employee, because the employee is gaining and learning new skills. So all of this go into what is called the career plan. So the career plan is this process, also a non-stop loop. What you notice is, you're gonna notice that in business, especially in the business field, or in general in most of the organizations, they try to create everything in cycles because they always have to evaluate if things work. But if you actually go back and look at it, all the cycles and in a non-ending loop, you might stop for a while to analyze what you're doing, but then you continue because it's a constant cycle of development. And the reason why is that if the company does not have that attitude, what happen is that a better company comes along, and you always have to watch the competition, and then this company can turn around and steal the clients and steal the customer from the other one. So the companies have to be up to date in everything. And the only way to be up to date in everything is by doing that, being in a constant loop. You can modify the loop, you can expand it, you can add more steps, you can reduce more steps. But depending on what you want to do, is always something constant. So here, for example, in the career planning, this is what the company recommends, that always the employees, one of the, and this doesn't really have an order because everything is connected. But if you look at it, if you start from your self point of view, that's the reason why that self assessment is at the top, because we need to be aware as an employees of our skills and our deficiencies in order for us to ask our employee for the help that we need to become better. I need classes in Microsoft Word, I need classes in Excel, I need classes about this new software that you guys are using. I have a lot of doubts, I don't know how to navigate the software. Or maybe within a software that you are used to do things, now they're asking you to do other things, to use some other screen, so to some other type of services. So for example, if you were in the sales department, your job was just selling, 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 and documenting the sale, and then you transfer that call or that client to another department that is in charge of everything that is accounting, paying, processing the payment, and then it goes to shipping. And let's say they tell you, okay, we're gonna train you to do everything, to do the entire process of the sale, that is talk to the client, convince the client that the purchase is good, make up a sale, and then accept the money or the funds to complete the transaction. So if everything is done in the same software, but you did not have certain experience, then you need those training. You need that additional information in order to process the payments correctly. So all of that helps the employee to research for those needs. What can I do for you in order to train you? Can I do the training in house? Do I need to hire somebody? Do I need to send you somewhere? So, all of that helps with the objectives that the company has. Where are we going? What are our goals? How the improvement of these skills give us a benefit in the corporation. So now here we go into also the benefits of the employee. If the employee is getting a better training and the employee is learning something new, of course, at the same time, the employee is able to improve their resume and post all this new information. So now the employee has a resume that says, I not only work on the sales department and do sales, but I do everything that is all the transaction, including all the way to purchasing and accepting the payments and doing all the transaction and everything. So that is an enhancement for the employee. So even if the employee in the future decides to leave or anything, the employee is going to leave that company with better skills, which in the long run is going to help the employee to get a better job somewhere else. So that's what we go into the process of the what we call that is the psychological aspect of the whole process of training and development. Because if we see how training benefits us as human beings, then we see that we are in a way reinventing ourselves, even though we have been in the company for 5 years, for 10 years, for whatever, we're learning something new. We're not stuck doing the same thing day in, day out for 10 years. No, the company is giving us that opportunity of becoming a better person to improve ourselves. So that alone gives us a motivation in life to balance. After we are in a company for a long time, we lose motivation, especially if we are in the same job for many years doing the same thing over and over and over. We basically get burned out. And it doesn't mean that it's burned out because the job is stressful or you have too much to do. No, it's just because you lose interest. So when you lose interest, you're still doing your job because you're going to work every day and you're getting paid for it, but then you're not doing it the right way because your motivation is no longer there. So that's what they look into the psychological aspect, which is the benefits of training the employee, because it motivates the employee to do something better, to do something new. So from there, we basically go into the other aspects. That is, now we're talking more about the contract. A lot of companies that usually train the employees when it is a very expensive training and it is a training that goes for a long time. And this actually includes academic programs per se. As you know, there are companies that can offer the benefit of the employees to do an academic program, to do a master's degree, to do a doctoral degree. And there are companies that if they don't cover the 100% of the tuition of the program, they can cover 80% or they can cover 90%. Or sometimes, for example, if you are an employee of the university, then there is a benefit that the university say, hey, whatever program you do with us, you get 80% discount. But all those benefits that the company offers, all those benefits that the company offer can be I don't know why it hit me to, it moved me to something else. Do you still see the presentation?
No, it is black.
I don't know why it hit me out completely. Give me 1 second. Let me open it again and see what happened. Hold on. That is so weird. And that's what sometimes using this online platform, sometimes it gets tricky. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so we were here. We were in everything that it is contract. So we have to be careful with what we offer the employees, and the employees also have to be careful with when they go into these contracts. Because, for example, a company, like I was saying, one of the benefits that the company can offer is say, oh, you can, one of the benefits that you have is that if you do a master's degree, will cover 100% of your tuition, will pay you for the program, or will pay 80%. But then it is important to look for the fine print, that it is what is it for me and what is it for you. So the company can tell you, yes, I will pay for your education, but you will need to sign a contract stating that after you graduate, you're going to stay with our company for 3 additional years or 4 additional years. And their company that actually reduce a percentage of the program that they pay for every year that the employees stay with the company after that, until it gets to a point that, like in the company sides, the death is paid, and they use the skill of the employees for certain amount of time. So after that, the employee is basically able to leave the company if the employee wants. But then within those 2, 3 years that the employee is staying in the company can create some other program, some other resource, some other service to employee that it calls the employee attention, and employees say, hey, this is worth it. I did my master, now they're offering a doctoral degree basically for free, and all I have to do is to stay 5 years after. But if you look at it in the long run, the company is building up that retention. So they are keeping this good employee for 10 years, for example, 3 years, 5 years if you do the master, and another 5 years if you do the doctor. So if the company say, okay, I'm keeping this employee for 10 years, that's how those type of services, the employees do the retention. But at the same time, if you look at it as an employee, you probably think about it and say, well, that means that for the next 10 years, I don't have to worry. I have to be really bad or doing something really awful or break every single rule in the company for them to lay me off. But if I don't do any of that, that means that I'm set. At least I know for a fact that I have a job for the next 10 years. However, as you know, jobs cannot last forever, or for any reason, the company can have financial issues, can be purchased by another company, or anything like that. So when you do those type of contracts, it's important that you read the fine print. Okay, if you're telling me that I have to work for 5 years with you to absorb the expense of the master's that I did, the master's in business administration that I did, what happened if I don't stay the 5 years with you guys? What happened if you let me off, if you fire me uh, the third year into my 5 year contract? So the company might say, okay, so because we let you go and it's not your fault, then basically you don't have to pay anything to the company. And then if the company is sold to a larger corporation, then basically the larger corporation can stipulate new guidelines. So all those contracts that we do with those type of benefits are important to be very aware of it. And all that take us into what you can see now here, that is basically the role, in this case the role of the manager. That is, what are the responsibilities, the most important things that the manager has to be aware of it in order to provide that support and that assistance to the employee. So this goes into something what is called the 6 personality types. And the 6 personality types, here is a picture of it. Then let me see if I can go back to the full screen that you can see it bigger. Okay. So here it is what they say that a manager has to be aware of it to help the employees to reach that level of training and to make sure that the employees are on the right path and that the company is basically guiding the employee in the right path. So they're saying that it is very important to classify the employees to see, in order to provide the proper training and in order to place the employee in the right type of position. It's important for us as managers to see who our employees are and what they do and their personalities. Based on those personalities will help us to see if the pay, no talking about, for example, saying socially awkward, but we know that there's some employees that they don't feel comfortable, for example, speaking in public, that there's some employees that don't have the patience that they need to deal with customers over the phone or things like that. So it is important for us as as managers, give the right training to the employee and place the employee in the right location, because if no, we are affecting ourselves, we're preparing the employee for failure, and in the long run is going to be more issues than benefits for everybody, for the customers, for the company, and for the employee. So they say that based on the personality, even though this looks more personal, like more me, more what I do outside of my workplace, all of these behaviors, all these personalities help us in the long run, because in a way it's not that we are one person outside of the company and one person inside the company. No, we're always the same person. We carry with us every day what we are everywhere we go. So then the company determines what is important, how they can use it. So all of this, the investment, if the person is very social, if the employee enterprising is basically a go-getter, if the person is always the employee is always giving like good ideas and recommending things for improvement, and try to help somebody else within the department, all of that. The conventionals is more like the organizers. I organize, I'm very good at developing, but at the same time, I'm very good at delegating. So I'll organize, I'll make sure that everything runs, and I'm being like in the back end, behind the curtain, making sure that everybody does the right thing. So all of these different personality traits help an employee to determine um, how beneficial an employee will be in the future in the company, especially if we go back what I just mentioned a few minutes ago, which is related to training, training and change, how to modify, how to train the employees, how this will benefit to me as a company. So basically here we are, I'm going to explain a little bit more in detail what they talk about the personality types. So the employee that is very realistic is the employee that is very, very practical. Um, is involved in everything that is hands-on problems and solutions. So if it is a company that is considering doing a big change and big transformation, expanding. Change doesn't mean anything bad. Change also means uh, becoming a better company, becoming a larger company, hiring more employees. So the company has to change. We have enough space? Do we have the enough resources? What are we gonna do with all these employees? Where are we gonna place them? Who's gonna be their supervisor? Where are we going to allocate them? All of that. So this type of employee will help you with all of that because it's very hands-on in problems and solutions. The employee that is more into the investigated aspect, that does what they like to do the most, is that person that will help us with the reading aspect of it. How much this change will cost us? Is it worth it doing it? Which duration we have to take? What are the alternatives? How can we build a strategic plan, a timetable that will help us to get this done the right way? So that person is very good at this because this person is the one that will go out and search on the internet for similar companies that did the similar thing. We read about it, see what went wrong, see what it was worth it doing, and apply all of that to what we are doing on the company or the changes that we're doing. So those types of employees are very valuable because, as you might know, people now do not like to read. People are more into videos. Show me a short video, show me a short information. Instead of reading a book that is 300 pages, give me the synopsis of this. So people might go to like blogs and read 4 or 5 or 6 different blogs with summaries of everything, and basically getting the book and reading it. So all that person is not that. That person is actually the opposite. So they add into more details, which in the long run is beneficial for the company because the company, it means that the company will be doing the changes or the transformation or the development the right way. So into the artistic part, even though we might think that we don't have a space for these people in the company, even if it is an accounting firm or a law firm or those kind of traditional jobs like that, this person like this is very, very important because this, we need somebody in the company that is creative, especially we are nowadays in the need of anything that is technology. In this part of the aspect, it doesn't mean that it's like drawing and marketing, even though these people will be great for marketing. But we're talking more about the aspect in connection to technology, how good you are with software, how you can train the employee, how you can design forms, how we can design a policy, how we can update a flyer with information that we can share with with customers, for example. So this type of person is very, very important because it takes the company out there. This person is the person that might not know how technically to sit down and develop a website. Might know, they probably don't know Java coding to develop a website, but as a person that when they see a company website is able to see this website is wrong, this website is missing this information is important for the clients to see. That is what this person is all about. Then talking about the social aspect of personality traits of an employee, then we're basically seeing what it is that what we call kind of like the social butterfly that has the connections within the department, that knows everybody, that gets along great with everybody, that always helping others, or because this person is always willing to learn quickly. And the mentalities that this type of employees are not selfish. These are the persons that will be willing to train quickly, but not thinking in like, oh, I'm willing to train quickly because I can learn. No, I'm willing to learn quickly because that way I can help my coworkers. Or if you work, if you have a mixed department and you have employees in all the spectrum, and you have employees that are older, over 45, 60, whatever might be, maybe those employees are not too techy. They do not have a lot of skills. This is the person that becomes and add more like the mother and the father within the department. I'll protect you, I'll help you, I'll support you, I'll go out of my way to make sure that you are okay. So these people will learn not because they want to learn. Of course, they want to learn, but it will be more for thinking in somebody else. So these are the person that are very good to always assign a training first than anybody else. Because if you want to do training quickly, these are the employees that you can have quickly train because they will turn around and train somebody else. So you are saving time in the training process. So while you could, so you train five, four people very well, and then those five, four people go out and train other five or six people within the company. So very, very quickly, the training sections and the knowledge of this new thing that you are doing in your company basically will expand and will get everybody will get the knowledge quickly. That's what you want. The faster everybody knows what is going on and everybody learns, the more time you save in productivity. So in this case, we're going into the enterprising. The enterprising individual is more that one that is like more energetic and actually enjoys everything that you give them, even if it is duties that have a lot of pressure and a lot of responsibility. So these persons are basically very good to quickly be transferred to managers and become the directors of that department. When somebody leaves, when a director leaves, when a director retires, when suddenly, God forbid, because it happens, somebody in the company passed away, and especially if it is somebody that had a management position and above, don't then suddenly in less than 24 hours, then you see yourself forced about, okay, suddenly we have this position open, we don't know what to do, this department is not ready, it's going to take us a long time to hire somebody. And this type of employees are the employees that easily will step in, will accept the challenge, and it will do very well. So this personality is very good within the company, and actually having it is because of the opportunities that you have of moving up and rank within the company very quickly. Because what a company likes is somebody that can handle pressure very well, because as a supervisor you have to report to too many people, you have to do reports, you have to keep everybody happy, and sometimes it's very stressful doing all of this and keeping everybody happy and pleasing everybody, and on top of that, running a department of 6, 7, 8 individuals. So mentally it's a mental challenge for somebody. That's what a lot of people, even though they feel they have the skills, they don't apply for director's positions or supervisor position or manager position because they cannot handle the pressure. Plain and simple, they can. They know, they hope, they know that based on knowledge they can do the position, but they know that their personality, they will crack. They will crack in 6 months, and those are the people that ended up in the hospital and ended up quitting because the pressure is too much. So we go into the conventional. The conventional employee is that one that help us, to be honest with you, to keep us in line, because it's the person that is always paying attention to detail, being aware of everything, organizing everything, making sure that everything is done in order and the right way. This is the person that will set up reminders in Outlook, that will send emails, hey, remember this, remember that. This is the person that will create internal flyers, just that to put around in the office to remember about important things. This is the person, for example, um, if you work in a company that works with chemics or liquids or something like that, this is the person that will make sure that in the bathroom it is all the Department of Health flyers. Make sure to do this. This is the type of person that now we started with COVID, was basically the first person to put a mask on and start putting hand sanitizers everywhere in the company and flyers about how it's important to keep your hands clean. And that's the kind of, but we need, believe it or not, sometimes they might be annoyed at time because they're always bugging you about everything. But if we are so absent-minded, we do need somebody to keep us in check. This is kind of like the behavior of the motherhood. When you are, and your mother is always telling you, be aware of this, be careful of this, remember this, don't have bad friends, don't go to this, whatever. That person in the company is like that. Remember this, remember that, do this, do that. uh, they are the ones that remember the company parties and the Christmas parties and everybody's birthday and so on. But it is important to have that kind of person, because when there is too many people in a company doing too many things at the same time, you do need somebody that keeps you in check, that helps you to remind you of the things that some other way, because you're too busy, you will forget. So in this case, as the manager role, for example, one of the important things that the manager has to be aware of when they're doing all this training, all this development for offering new jobs is basically going this. Even though you are going to promote somebody, you are going to give the opportunity to somebody, it's very important to do that interview, to have the opportunity to talk, to give the opportunity to the employee to say yes. That's basically the bottom line. Because you might think that the employee is ready, but it's one thing, is another thing that the employee feel that is ready. This happens a lot um, with women in the workplace, because women might have the skills to do a job and the supervisor sees the potential. But let's say, for example, it's a young woman and she just got married and she's planning on having a family, or she say, oh, I'm pregnant or whatever it is, then basically the priorities of the supervisor are no longer the priorities of this employee, because the employee say, hey, thank you for the opportunity, but this job is too demanding. This job will keep me in the office 10, 12 hours a day. I have a small baby at home, or I'm planning on have a baby, or I'm pregnant and I can't right now. Or some other time, for example, if we're not talking about women, a lot of us, we take care of our elderly parents. Either they're sick, they're not work anymore, if we help them, financial aspect, whatever it is that we do. So maybe we'd say, hey, no, I cannot do this because I'm taking care of my parents, and after work I'll drive to their house and I'll make sure that they're okay. Or my parents are moving with me because they're very sick or they're very old or whatever. So then that employment opportunity that in another time it was your perfect timing, maybe at that day that they offer you the job is no longer your priority. So managers have to be careful with that and do that aspect of informal interview. We're considering you for this. We think that you can do it. You're the best employee for the job. Would you consider it? So it is important to always give the employee the opportunity. And now, it becomes the other aspect. Never put the employee in a bad situation that the employee thinks that because he or she is not going to accept the job, that then you're going to resent it, or you're going to make the employee's life miserable, or that the employee is not going to feel welcome in the company anymore, or something like that. So it's very, very important that even if the employee says no, that basically we understand the position of the employee. We don't get any resentment. We don't affect the employee. We don't turn around and fire the employee in 2 3 months because the employees say no, for example. So it's very important about that. The other aspect is the job rotation. The job rotation is because there's certain positions that are crucial in the company, but that at the same time they're very demanding. And because they're very demanding, they take a lot mentally. Mentally, they take a lot from the employee. For example, eh, the lawyer of a company that constantly deal with clients and with lawsuits and legal issues and employees complaints, somebody in human resources always dealing with this, their positions that they're mentally challenged, they drain you very quickly. So sometimes the companies have in certain departments employees that are more like a team. So they have the same skills, they have the same knowledge, they have everything, but they rotate the leader of the team. So in that way, they give the employees a break. The employee doesn't brain out. The employee doesn't feel tired, and the employee does not leave. That's the whole purpose. If they're good, the whole purpose is to try to keep them. And then basically the career and orientation appraisal is mostly because it's important for us to know if the employee is in the right position. And the reason why it is important to know this is because if we are motivating the students to, the employees to be better, to study, to get another career, if we are giving them the opportunity and will say, okay, I cover 80% of your tuition, do this degree, then at the end of the degree, as managers, it's our responsibility to say, okay, I gave you the opportunity to study, you did it well, you finished the program quickly. Now I have you here with another degree, with another gain of skills. So, what am I going to do? So, that is the appraisal. What are the new duties that you gain? What is the degree that you gain? What other new skills you're bringing to the table because of this degree that you did, or this license that you obtained, or something like that. And that basically helps the manager to determine if that employee is ready to something else. And it doesn't mean even salary increase, but maybe moving the employee to another department, give the employee other responsibilities, give the employee the opportunity to apply from within to another position that you might be opening soon, or something like that. So that oriented appraisal helps you not to be as a manager selfish and never think that the employee, that you don't want the employee to leave. There are actually companies that work like that, and actually that's why they don't give a lot of benefits and services and training to the employees, which it doesn't work in a long run, because when the employee doesn't get the benefits from the company that they want, most of the employees, they actually leave. They go to somewhere else to get the benefits that they're looking for. So either or, the company always ended up losing that employee that in the back of their minds that actually really wanted to keep, because the employee was really good. So this helped the managers with, at the same time, the learning tools, the career assessment, all of that. The managers have to be prepared to provide the correct feedback to the employees, to provide the correct support to the employees. And the only way to do that is if the manager has the skills of all this learning tool and recognizing some of these flags, seeing who is a good asset within the company, who can be offered a better job, who can be offered a promotion. All of that is important. So that helps the manager with the career planning. That is how we're gonna do the training. Do we do workshops? Do we do something inside? Can somebody else train them? Do we have to send this person somewhere else or hire somebody? And now is when it start companies do something and to save money, what is called career coaches. So if they want to give a promotion to this employee to be a director of this new department that the company is going to create, they can basically assign one of the other managers that have been there for a long time and have been a director for a long time to show the roles to this employee. So the employee starts shadowing this manager, attending the meeting, see what the manager does, how support the employees, how the teammates, all of that. So all this behavior, the employee starts gaining that experience that they want, and they see how managers operate and how managers do things. Do you have a question so far about what I have said? Or do you want me to just continue? You want to add something, an example, anything in your workplace? Okay, so let's move along. We're going basically into what integrating of talent management. This aspect of integration is very, very important because it helps the human, this goes specifically into the human resources department. It is one of the main functions of the department because that's what it helps human resources to determine what to offer to the employees. This goes into everything that is acquisition. Acquisition is hiring new employees, how to do training on board, how to do performance review, how to evaluate the employees, all of that. And this is part of the time management approach. The managers, what managers will do is because managers provide that feedback to the human resources office. Why? Because in order for the training to happen, human resources has to approve it, or human resources has to determine to see if it is relevant to the job description that the employee has. And if the manager is thinking of doing that because they want to offer the employee a promotion, human resources has to be aware of this information or promotion that the manager has in mind. Because if the training is not in house and the training has to be done outside, that costs money to the company. So they have to be aware that they are providing the money, that they are keeping in line with the purpose of the employer, the future goals, and that it means everything in order to invest way ahead of time. So everything has to be in line. A part of this integration show us certain aspects. Let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger to give you this. This is basically to determine what it is, the talent planning, the talent acquisition, the onboarding and integration, how we're going to do it inside, how we're going to do it outside, if it has to be done. Then basically considering everything that is the performance management. It's a worth it for the employee to do it. It's a beneficial for the company that the employee does it. Does the employee has the necessary skills? Even though you are offering a training to the employee, you cannot go too far of their comfort zone or their education skills because they're going to prepare the employee for a failure and the employee is not going to do well. So the employee is going to go to this training, but it is not going to learn what the employee needs to do. or what you are wanting the employee to do. So that is important because then you go into the individual leadership of the employee and the management development. Does it meet the requirements? Is it will be successful to offer this training to the employee? Does this employee have the skills, mental capability, knowledge to go from X level to whatever level? Why? Because the idea is to make sure that the employee succeeds, that the employee is ready, and that the employee doesn't get worried and think that they're going to get fired if they don't do well. So that retention aspect of the whole process is very, very important. And it's like I was saying before, if by any chance the employee says no, that you are aware that the employee is aware that even though they say no, nothing is going to happen. Hey, we gave you the opportunity. You say no, that's fine. Somebody else will take your place and take advantage of the opportunity. So that is what it is important to see the whole aspect. So the succession of the career planning help us to do all of this, to identify the right employee, to nurturing and training in the right way, to make sure that the skills are developed the right way, and to make sure that we prepare the employees for the future that we have within the company, the new job, the new department, the new director's position, whatever it is. So everything has to be in line and everything has to match. Then the other thing is basically following those stages that will help us to identify the the importance of the position. So the first thing, in other words, is make sure that we don't waste our time. That what we are training the employee for, it is important. It is something that the company needs. It is something that is relevant. So we get the benefits, and that's why when we go into thinking about the critical role, are they doing it well? Are they supposed to be doing it? Is it worth it for them to be doing it? All of that. So that's when we go into the analysis aspect, which is considering all those gaps that the employee might have, my the positions, the gaps, my the gaps of the need. Is it really needed? Is it important? If we classify it, always as a manager, we have to think in numbers. So we will say, if I qualify, if I categorize this, for example, what will be the priority? It will be, is this number one need, or number two need, or number three need? So that helps us as a manager to focus the resources in what we need the most at that time. So that's why we always go through this process of classification, and we say we're going to do this first, and the second, and this third, and this fourth, and so on. So this helps us, of course, into what is the succession of the career plan, which is important to know, that is identify the requirements. That the requirements means what does the employee needs. For example, we cannot offer a education of a master's degree, for example, to somebody that has a high school diploma, because officially we know that if the person goes and apply for a master's degree, they're going to tell the person, hey, you don't have a bachelor's degree, you don't have the academic credentials to do this. So as managers, using this as an example, basically what it means is we need to be aware of what the employee needs to offer it. We cannot offer something that is completely realistic, that is completely unreachable, that is not going to benefit anybody. The employee is going to be mad, the employee is going to lose morale, is going to lose motivation, because the employees say, oh, they offered me this, but at the end it didn't even work because I couldn't even do it. So that's basically what it is important. And all of that is in the process of evaluation and monitoring and observing. Knowing our employees is the key, to know what training we give them, how we give them, what they're eligible for, and if we know for a fact that they are going to do it well. That is the most important thing, that you're not wasting your time, and that the employee is not well wasting the time. And now here we go into more of the human resources aspects of training. By law, we have to offer the training to all the employees, and we have to give the opportunity to all the employees to improve. That means if we have in the company employees with disabilities, and I'm not talking about mental issues or something like that, even though a lot of company hires this type of people. I might be talking about employees that are in a wheelchair and employees that don't have a link because they were in a ward and something happened or whatever it is. But in disability, we also have to consider the health issues. If we have employee with that have reported to human resources because employees are required to do this and the biggest problem is that they don't do it. If we have as employee that has reported to human resources, for example, that have severe heart issues and that employee maybe even went through a heart transplant, for example, that means that you're not going to give this employee a training to become the future of the VP of customer service because that position is going to be too stressful for him. So even though the employee might want the position and might be interested in the position, then you have to think about I do not want for this person to die because of the level of stress that this position has. Because if the employee that dies in the workplace, for example, depending, the company can do an investigation, and if they were able to discover that the person died because of the high level of stress, then the family can turn around and file a lawsuit. So now we go into the aspect of employment training that does as managers that we have to be very careful when we offer somebody training, when we offer somebody a promotion, when we tell the person, hey, this is going to be good for you, that in all aspects that we're considering that person, that person basically check the box. If it is an stressful position, that the person has the physical health to do it. If it is a sales position, traveling position, for example, that we know that the person is willing to do it. How somebody is willing to do it? If you have somebody young, somebody that is not married, somebody that doesn't have kids, somebody that doesn't have any attachments, it probably would be easier for this person to accept a job in the sales department, national or international traveling, because the person doesn't have those attachments at home. There is nothing outside the company that force this person to say no. So that's where we go about it. All of those aspects to make sure that we're selecting basically the right person for the job. And then we go into consideration of disabilities because we're talking that we cannot discriminate. It is important to have all of that. That if it is somebody that we're offering a new job and this person is in a wheelchair, that we know that maybe this new job we're required to relocate this person to another place. So then you go into the fact that is this new place able to give access to this employee that is in a wheelchair, or what do we have to modify in that office, or what do we have to modify in that building to make sure that the employee is able to get in and out. Do we have to create like an special parking space for him or her in a special location that he has access or she has access to the office? All of that. So all of those arrangements, we have to be aware of it, and we have to have the budget for it, because we cannot discriminate the employee just because of that. There are companies, for example, in the place that I work, I actually have co-workers that they're blind and they do the job well, but my employer has provided the right equipment with the computer with these special machines that reads everything. It reads the emails to them, and they can record what they're saying, and then Outlook converts everything and types everything and send the email, and even with the phone and everything, and they do an excellent job, and they're very good at it. So we cannot discriminate that person just because the person is blind. If the person has the skill for it, then go for it and offer the job. But just make sure that you have internally the funds that you need to make that person able to do the job well. So we go into the career guidelines of disability, which is very important to consider all of these things, all the strategies, the sponsoring, the outcomes, all of that we need to have into place to make sure that this person that is disabled that we are recommending for the job is going to do the job well. We cannot prepare the person for failure because now we're going into the legal aspect and say, oh, you put me here because of my disability, because you do not want me here, and you prepare me for failure, because then if I don't perform my job well, then you can turn around and fire me. So it is very important to know all these aspects to avoid any legal issues after the fact. So in the mentoring coaches, what we do is more the important of supervision. Like I was saying before, we can shadow it, we can train somebody on a daily basis. We can have training one-on-one with the employee. We can tell the employee, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, you're gonna attend these meetings with me. I have to go and visit a client, and you're gonna go with me the way that you can see what do I do when I go and I talk to my clients and all of that. So all that coaching, all of that helps you to determine how to do things better for the employee that you are preparing to, even if in the long run is going to succeed you because you are going to retire. A lot of people submit retirement plan, retirement requests a year in advance. Sometimes they do it 6 or 7 years, 6 or 7 months, depending on the position and depending on the human resources policies of the company. So the employee has the opportunity to train the employee quickly for 6 7 months. So when this person that is retiring leaves, then the company is comfortable knowing that this person learned what it was supposed to do the job well once the other leaves. So that is important of the everything that is the coaching aspect of the training. Now we go into the retention aspect. The retention aspect is because it's too expensive for companies constantly being interviewing, um, contacting, being. Somebody has a question. Okay, I thought somebody had a question. I'm sorry. So um, basically, the retention aspect is that we have to be aware of how much a company it costs to a company to do something. Basically, how do I keep the employee the way that the employee leave? How much does it cost me to develop a, a job description? How much it will cost me to have the job advertised? How much time the interview committee how much time the interview committee members basically will have to leave their jobs to do the interviewing and the hiring process of this employee. So that's the idea of the purpose of the company for retention. What services do the employees need? What are their needs? The way that we can keep these people with us. So it is important to always be aware that we can offer services, even if the company is small, and let's say the company does not have the budget, for example, to offer uh, health insurance, for example, or vacation pay. Maybe that small company can offer some type of benefits that the employee likes them, flexible work schedule, a flexible ability of like in and out,
Yes.
working on the weekends for those that cannot work at, so many other
Yes.
aspects. Does anybody has a question, or they just have
Yes.
the microphone open?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes,
Okay, my name is Wellington. Okay, my question is when you are talking about
you are
career,
breaking up. I cannot hear you very well.
can you hear me now?
A
Yes,
little bit. At the same time, can you also, for example, in the chat room, type your question at the same time you repeat it? So just in case anybody else will not hear it or something, we can just read your question.
My question is when you are talking about the career succession in an organization, it's a career succession planning, and you talked about observing an employee, evaluating and monitoring the performance of an employee in an organization as a future succession to
I'm
manage that.
sorry, but to be honest with you, I can't hear you. Do you mind typing the question as well in the chat room area so I can read it back to the rest of the group and I can answer your question?
Okay, let me look for the chat area. I couldn't find the chat area on the screen.
Thank you. Okay, so while you type the question and we wait for your question the way that I can read it to the classmates, I'm just gonna list to try to finish this part of what we talk about employee turnover. That basically what we're talking about turnover here is the amount of money that the company might waste on constantly the whole hiring process of the job description, the advertisement, the interviewing people, how many interviews is going to be, one interview, two interview, three interviews, all of that, plus the time that it takes to the interview committee members to leave their jobs and their duties to be able to meet to interview somebody. So that's what sometimes the company has all these issues on retention and turnaround yet. So it gives basically is very devastating for a small business, especially for the small business, because all those expenses that they have for retraining, hiring, moving somebody around, somebody leaving every 2 3 months or whatever it is. So it is important for the company to be aware and actually make sure that since the beginning the employees have whatever they need, the resources that they need, that you know that they're going to stay for a long time. A good retention, believe it or not, in the small business, it could be between 2 years to 5 years. And the reason is because small businesses do not provide the benefits that a big corporation can offer. So in that case, what happened is that it builds up some type of loyalty. So in a small business, it becomes more like when they say, oh, we're like a family here. And that's because it is, because it's a small group of people trying to make the company succeed. So there is some other type of relationship that actually happens and transform in comparison with large companies that you don't have that. You don't have that attachment to the company. Sometimes you don't even have that connection with the coworkers. There's a lot of people that they just go, they do their job. When they talk to other employees, they talk is about whatever their jobs are or whatever they need, but they don't know each other very well, and they don't share a lot of things about their personal family, and they're actually not interested and getting to know anybody at that level as well. So it is that disassociation that creates that detachment from the company even easier for somebody to go and turn around and leave and everything. So the needs of a company that is a large company in comparison with a small business is different. So that is something that the managers have to be aware of it. So for example, here it is more important in like the how we conduct the exit interviews, for example, is because it's important for us to know the reasons why the employees are leaving. All of those, yeah, and never take the exit interviews as a complaint, even though employees, when they're upset, they write it the wrong way. But for us as managers, if we read those exit interviews and we're able to see a pattern, we are able to see why the employees are leaving. So that help us to improve. And also help us to like monitor what we have inside as well. And what I say by monitor what we have inside is mostly employees. Let's say, for example, we have an employee in the department that is very, very toxic. Is a bully. It always harassing all the other coworkers and everything. But this employee around the manager behaves completely different. So when we don't see the real truth, when we don't see the real behavior of of that employee, it's difficult for us to make a determination. So that's why exit interviews are so important, because if in the exit interview an employee writes something bad about this other employee, I'm leaving because I don't feel comfortable with this employee, he or she is harassing me, I don't think I will be able to stay with this employee, work with this person for a long time. If you read it once, then you say, yeah, okay. But if a lot of employees are leaving because of the same reason and they provide that information and they say that to you, then it is important, important for the manager to take an immediate action. If the manager does not make a direction action, the turnaround time will never get fixed. And actually, this person is responsible for the ruin of the department or the ruin of that area of the company, because nobody's going to last when you work with somebody that is like that. So it is important for managers never to ignore the exit interviews, because the exit interview honestly shows you what is going on inside the company. So when we talk here about the employee retention aspect, and now we're talking into what is called digital and social media or human resources. When they talk about this, is basically the improvement of the engagement or retention. What software, what system, what abilities, what technology we need to give to the employees, how we can train them, how do they perform. And this is also in connection to the social media of what the employees are saying when they're not at work. What we have to remember is that we are employees of the company always, not only from 8 to 5, that is when we are in the company, always. So everything that we do also outside, it reflects back on the company. Things that we write about it in social media, things that we do, videos that we post, comments that we mention, all of that is important. And nowadays, you probably on the news you have seen historically people that ended up getting fired because they went in a store fighting, or they insulted somebody, or they wrote something inappropriate on Facebook, because all of that, it damaged the image of the company, because then everybody's gonna turn around and say, oh, I can't believe such and such company hires this type of employees, and is not beneficial for the for the company to be associated with this type of drama. So it is important to be aware of all of that for those ends, that you can actually get fired for whatever you put on Facebook or whatever you did on the weekend, even though you were not during working hours. So it goes hand on hand with that, and it's very important. All of that is very important also for the employee retention. uh, who we're going to keep, why we're going to keep it, that trust that you have and you create with the employee, the job security and the stability, all of that is it has to be a priority of any good manager, to make sure that they're keeping the right employees, and that the employees are basically, we are the face and the image of the company that we work with. We cannot be working in a company that every time we are outside, all we're doing is talking bad about the company, talking bad about the managers, talking bad about the illegal things that the company does, if that is the case. Because if that is the case, in other words, the sooner you disassociate yourself from that company, the better off you will be. Because sooner or later, the company is doing something wrong, is going to be under investigation, then you're going to be in the middle of all this investigation. So it works both ways. Don't ever think that the manager is just looking, watching. It works both ways. You are also the same way. You're looking at the company, you're watching at the company, you're watching how the company behaves and how the company does, and what do they do with other clients, with other companies, and all of that. And when the company is not behaving the right way and is not doing the right thing, then the sooner you leave and change your job and go to another place, the better, because then you're not going to be under legal investigation on in corporate crime or corporate drama, just because you saw all of this that that it was happening, and you just decided to stay. So when we talk about the job withdrawal, basically, unfortunately, there are times that we have to do this. We have to separate from the employee. We have to terminate employee. Uh, we're not happy with the performance of the employee, or unfortunately, sometimes happen because of lack of funding. The company is losing money, so the company cannot have too many departments afloat, or can have too many employees afloat. So sometimes it gets to a point that this have to happen. So then we go into how we do it the right way, how we distance ourselves from the employee the right way, what type of benefits we're going to offer the employee according to policies. Can we give some type of bonus at the end that it helps the employee for a couple of months while the employee is able to find somebody else? So, and it's very important, avoid at all time the legal aspects of the resignation. So we have to be very clear about the reasons why we are letting this employee go, why everything has to be documented, and to avoid drama completely, and especially to avoid legal issues. So to do that, basically have to be, everything has to be very well documented. That is actually the reason why we were talking about some time ago about like performance evaluations and all of that. That's how performance evaluations are so important. When you keep track of the employee's behavior, when you officially document all of this, if by any chance you have to go to the end to this type of process that is letting anybody go, then you're documenting everything in a way that you are not going to get affected in the long run, because the employee is not going to have a grounds for a legal action. Anyway, they might go and they might want to file a lawsuit, but a smart lawyer will lead that basically the employee doesn't have grounds. If the lawyer is greedy enough and accept the case, because that many times happen, that's what, as a managers, for us is important to keep very well documentation on everything. And there are companies that actually have guidelines, but they're managed by human resources. Records of laying off. There are companies that actually save records for up to 5 years, or sometimes even more, depending on the level of the position. The higher the person is, a president, a vice president, you actually keep records even sometimes for a longer period of time. because of that. Because the fact that the employee didn't do it now, it doesn't mean that the employee is not going to file a lawsuit later. Then on top of that, legal aspect of somebody hired, president, vice president, and above, can take years. So it is important for you to keep proper documentation. No being prepared for the worst, but just in case the worst happen, then you have that information with you and you're able to defend yourself and defend your company. Because depending on the legal aspect and the situation, this legal situation can take a company to the ruins. The company spends so much time and so much money in lawyers defending themselves that they actually basically they have to declare themselves in bankruptcy sometimes, or if they lose the legal action of it and they have to pay too much money, then basically they might not even have all the money that the settlement took place for. So it is important to document as managers. And this is not only the job of the Human Resources Office, it is our job and responsibility for managers to document the right way, especially document everything that happens, bad situations that happen to the employees. And there is two types of level of documentation: is the ones that you keep on record in your computer, and then when a manager thinks that are important things to report to human resources to do it. But in the long run, what you keep in your computer and what you report to human resources, it is considered for evaluation at the time of performance evaluation. So it is important to document everything. So when we go into the aspect of promotion, now we're talking about all the positive aspects of the employee, how we're going to promote somebody and the reasons why we are going to promote it and what that promotion means. If the employee is going to be promoted, the employee is going to leave a position that you have there before. So even before offering the promotion, even before ongoing the transition, you have to be prepared for that gap that the employee is leaving. So to make sure that as soon as the person is promoted to another position, you already have a plan on action in place. Are we going to replace this person? Or this position is no longer necessary and basically we don't have to do it. Maybe even in the aspect of promotion is offering the person a little bit of more duties, a better salary, but the person will retain some of the duties of all of the duties that the person was doing before. So you don't have that crisis of we're keeping the position, do we have to post a position, do we have to do it? Also part of the promotion, like I was mentioning to you guys, is the importance of giving the chance to the employee to say yes, because we might have a chance of offering the promotion, but maybe for personal reasons or some other reasons, the employees say no. So we have to have always a plan B. A plan B, it could be some other ways. We might have in the company 2 or 3 candidates that might do very well the job. So then again, like I was mentioning to you in business, you always categorize those positions. You classify the employee and you say, this is the best candidate, this is the second best candidate, and this is the third one. And then you create some type of analysis of duty. What are the skills of one? What is the skill of the other one? And what are the skills of the other one? And if we offer the job to this person, what we need to train them and what we need to train them, like that. So you ahead of time, you have basically plan A, B, and C. And then if you don't have that person within the company to be promoted, then you know that if you need somebody in that position, you're basically going to turn around and advertise it, because besides that other individual, you don't have anybody else to do it. So then you go outside and look for somebody outside, because if you have the need for that, if you have that position and you have that need, then basically it's important for you to cover it as soon as possible, either by promoting or by hiring somebody from outside. So here it is basically in the promotions, it's very important to consider the law of promotions, which is basically, this is what we're talking about, the Age Discrimination Employment Act. So we cannot discriminate in the aspects of promotion let's say it that way, because of the age of the employee, because of the certain competencies, all of that that the person has. We basically have to promote people because of, or an employee because is the best one for that new job, not start classifying and saying, I'm not going to promote this person because this person is 50 years old, will be in the company 5 years more, and at the end of the 5 years, the person is going to retire. So in 5 years from now, I'm going to be in this process all over again. So all of that is no, no, no against promotion. Regarding the measurements of competition is across the board, that is basically who has the best skills, who can do the job well. Regardless, you might have somebody that is not that old, that has not been for that long time in the company, but he has the skills to be promoted. And then you go and think about it and you say, wait a minute, but this person has been here for 10 years. So in reality, he deserves the promotion more than this other person. But then, if you are in the need of the company and seeing what are the skills that I need nowadays, you might give the other person the benefit of the doubt, the person that is older, and say, hey, are you interested in the position? Maybe if it is somebody older, maybe that it is somebody that is thinking on staying in the company for 5 more years and retire. Maybe the person doesn't want the headache. And the person might say no, or at the end you present the promotion the right way. No promotion for demotivation, but promotion for motivation. So you can tell the person, I'm considering you for this new position, for this promotion. You have been in the company for a long time and you know the job well. However, this promotion, for example, this promotion entitles that you speak another language, or that you know this software, or that you know this, or that you know that, or that you travel, and the travel is going to be local travel and international travel. Are you willing to do that? So it's not that we're demotivating the person up front and indirectly between the lines telling the person don't take the job, but we have to be honest and we have to stay and tell the person the truth. So always give the person the opportunity. Maybe the person say, hey, you know what? I'm older, but I have kids and my kids don't live with me anymore. They're at the university, so I can travel. I don't have any problem. I can go national, I can go international. For me, it's very easy to learn another language, or I do have the skills of another language, but I don't have them very well. So if I take a quick crash course, I will improve my skills. So that is something else. So it's not basically not disanimating the person since the beginning the way that the person don't take the job, no, but be honest and tell the person what you need, because promotion means more responsibility. So the person does need some additional skills to do that job. So that is important, and that goes into what I was talking about, the no considering gender or race or anything like that. It is important to make sure that we don't make those mistakes, that we don't offer the job to the promotion because it's a woman, or the promotion because it's a man, or because it's too old, or because I'm gonna pay this much to this person, but this guy that I really, really like, if they get the job, I get more money or I give them more money. No, everything has to be honest, everything has to be balanced, and everything has to be the same way. You're going to offer the same job salary, the same promotion, the same benefits, the same everything, regardless of what the person is. If the person is older or young or women or men, or the salary or anything. So since the beginning, you close this information with human resources even before offering the promotion. So in this case, what you do is the development of the job description clearly with a lot of details. Remember what I mentioned to you, that there's some companies that they even have like 4 and 5 pages of the job description. That is the reason why, to avoid legal aspect, to avoid that the employee, when the employee is in the company, that the employee don't turn around and say, oh, you didn't say this to me, or nobody told me that I needed to do this. No. So the development of the job description, the assignment of the duties, the determination of salary, their level of education, the level of years of experience, all of that is very important. And based on that, you just don't go to the person and say, I want to promote you. No, you tell the person, we have the opportunity to open this position. This is the copy of the job description. We are considering you to maybe give you that position and give you the promotion, but before you say yes, I want for you to read this job description, because this is officially what we need. And we need to make sure that if we promote you, you can meet the requirements that are listed in the job description. So without any cover ups, without anything, you are upfront telling the employee what you need. So you are basically giving 100% the opportunity to the employee to give you the answer and to tell you, thank you for the opportunity, but no, thank you. I do not have the skills. I don't feel at this time ready to go back to school, or I don't think that at this time and age I will turn around and learn a language, another language, as quickly as you're telling me to learn it. And so at least the person doesn't get reprehensible about it, and they get animosity and they get upset because you didn't give them the opportunity. You did give them the opportunity, you were very clear about it, and the person say no because of whatever reason, that he or she is not interested. On going back to the previous example that I say, no, I want to travel, I want to spend my time with my family, I want to be with my kids more, or whatever. So the person might not take the job. So this is also something into the aspect of promotion, which is connected to what it is transfers and retirements. What I was telling you, that all of this have to be done in advance, because we as company cannot afford to have employee gaps for a long time. So in the employee manual, one of the policies, as in this case now more in the aspect of human resources, and you can actually use the help of the directors to put that as a policy. You can put this as one of the policies in the employee manual. So if you are going to transfer an employee, which is basically considering a promotion from one position to the other one, uh, you have to do it with a timeline of transitioning of 3 months, for example. So that way you give the person the time to adjust to the new position, and that gives you the time to hire new person and to this person to train. So when the person is leaving at the end of the 3 months, then basically the needs of the other position are covered. It's no ideally or recommended or the best plan of action to basically tell somebody on Thursday, we're going to promote you. The person say yes, and then on Monday you're starting your new job. No. And then the retirement also can have policies of guidelines in the employee manual, and it can be done across the board, or it can be done for levels. Somebody that has a low level position, it's easier to hire a replacement and to hire somebody in place than somebody that is a director or a vice president or even a president of the company. So that's why the higher you go, the longer you want the person to report the retirement. So like I was saying before, there are companies that depending on the positions, there is people that actually announce their retirement a year in advance, or even up to 2 years in advance, to give the company the opportunity to get somebody else, to this person to train, and to create a smooth transition that it doesn't affect the company at all. So now we go basically into one of the last objectives of this chapter, what is basically Unfortunately, the grounds for dismissal that many of us do not want to face this situation because in reality, whether we like it or not, is very, very uncomfortable. But as managers, it's something that we have to be prepared for it because it will happen. And this is because we have different aspects of if the separation is what we call the separation is voluntary, if the person let say, hey, I'm leaving, or if you tell the person you need to leave and the person realize that yes, this is not the best position for us, I was wrong, blah blah blah, I'm leaving, whatever they happen, and then we go into this dismissal aspects of the person that want to fight it with you, that why are you firing me, that I want to talk to the supervisor and the supervisor and the other supervisor because they don't want to leave. So here also in the dismissal, going back to the employee manual, it is important to have clear policies about dismissal because whatever you don't write in the employee manual, then basically anybody can use it as as a legal action. And going back to the employee manual, it is once the person, this is not when the person is even working. When you offer somebody the job and you send the letter of offer to the employee and the employee sign the letter and say, yes, I accept your job. So the person has not even started working. The first thing you must do is to give the person a copy of the employee manual. So you're giving the person the opportunity to read officially what your company is all about, your guidelines, your policies, your regulations, what this new employee is bound by, and what they need to do in the company. That's why when you hire somebody, most of the hiring happen between 1 or 2 weeks. So all the important aspects that for lack of time you didn't cover during the interview process, you are giving it to this person up front. You're giving a copy of the job description. You're giving copy of the manager. You can give a copy of the organizational chart. You can give uh, sometimes company does this, which is a short bio of the team. Let's say, for example, the person is hired as one of the sales representatives. So a bio of the department means give a little bio with the name and the picture of the employee. This is your manager. This is the coworkers. This is basically your team, and it can provide a little bit of the employee file. This person has been here for a long time. This is the duties, blah, blah, blah. So at front, even before the person starts working, then the persons know, okay, this is my team. These are their skills. This is who they are. This is the person. And even in the bio, you can provide information about support. So let's say within the team, you have somebody that is very good, that knows all the technical aspect of the software. So you can put recommendations on the bottom and say, if you have technical issues with the software, contact this person. If you have questions about how to do this person will support. So the bio gives the employee in advance all of that. So the employee doesn't walk into the job like blindsided, but what it is. So everybody, every member of the team is sharing a little bit of information. And at the same time, you can ask this employee to provide a small short bio with the picture and everything to be associated. Sometimes we're very imaging. We connect the dots with images. So the picture sometimes is also good. So when you as a manager tell the person, hey, listen, we hired this person, then basically you can share that little bio with everybody. And then of course, companies use that bio to provide to introduce the employee to the entire organization. They send an email to the entire organization introducing the employee. Hey, we hired this new employee in this department, and this is the person, and this is the education, and this is where they're coming from, and this is the year of experience, whatever it is. So all of that is given up from to the employee and is kept as part of the employee file because it helps you as well by the time of dismissal. So employee will never say, You never gave me my duties. You never gave me copy of my responsibilities. You never shared with me anything. You never provided the right training. So all of those things are important to put in the employee manual. And now we go into the final aspect of dismissal that is very important for the employee manual. If your company requires um, background checks, drug testing, all of those things, then basically it's important to put them in the employee file. And if, especially if they're random and it could happen in more than one occasion, you have to do that. So when you go randomly and drug test everybody and somebody fails the drug test and you're fired the person, that the person is not going to say, you're not supposed to fire me because you never told me that you do drug testing. So it is important within the employee manual to keep control of all the important policies that helps the company succeed and function and operate, and at the same time to share that ahead of time. So if the employee reads all of that, or employee reads the manual, employee and create a letter that the employee signs and give you the first day. Yes, I read the employee manual. Yes, I read the pile of my coworkers. Yes, I know who my team members are. You can actually keep that in the employee file. So all of that, no then, not at the beginning, but at the end, it might help you save you a lot of headaches and save you money in legal litigations. So talking about the fairness of safeguard, the fairness of safeguard is basically when I was mentioning before that dismissing somebody is never easy. So it's very important that we have a process in place, that human resources has a process in place, and that is following the reason why. So even though you are dismissing somebody, allow that person to speak, give the person the opportunity to explain themselves, especially if you're telling the person that they're being dismissed because they failed the drug testing. Companies also have to offer services to the employee. So the employees turn around and say, hey, I have an addiction problem, but I like the company, I like the job, I never had any issues, I need help. Then the fact that the employee is that, maybe you don't want to fire that person, maybe you want to put the person on probation, and maybe you want to offer the services for the employee to get better. Then if the employee in the future fails again, then basically you go and turn around and say to the person, we gave you the chance, we didn't dismiss you, we offered the services to you, we gave you an opportunity for you to take some hours from work off and go to like a rehab place or an AA meetings or whatever it is, but you're still doing the same thing. So all of that also stays documented as a covering for legal issues in the future. So all of this is an example of this is one of the examples that is actually in the book. I don't know if you had the chance to review the chapters before we do this presentation. This doesn't mean that it is basically set on a stone, because it all depends on the size of the company and also the budget that the company has. But this is more or less an example for you to have an idea of, if you run a company, if you own a company, or you are an employee and you have been in a company for a long time, how company can consider the servants package when you are leaving or you are getting laid off or they are firing you. The downfall of this, that I wanted to show you this, that actually the companies are not required to have servants package. And a lot of companies, what they use is you literally live with what you have. There are companies that transform the vacation days into money and give them to you. And if you have 6 days, whatever 6 days you have there that you have no use, you lose them. There are companies that transform all of that into money, and they basically give you a check and that's it. But there are companies that, when they're well established, when they're well organized, they give that. They give certain percentage of money for the amount of years that the employee was in the company. of benefits, of sick days, of vacation days, of personal days, or whatever it is. So they have to lay off the person. The person doesn't leave empty-handed, leave with a little bit of money that they can start, surviving at least for a while they're able to get another job. So in the employee laws, it's very, very important that we do everything, especially when we're directors. And remember that I have mentioned this before, that we are considering ourselves as like directors of human resources. So then we go into the legal aspect of it. How is the right way to do this? What are the laws that protect the employee? What are the laws that protect me? What else do I need to have in consideration when I want to fire somebody, when I want to dismiss somebody? So the whole process of dismissal, believe it or not, it starts in the back end, even before you say somebody that is leaving. And you have to consider all these laws to make sure that when you give the bad news to the employee, you have all of this already covered. You know that you're doing it the right way. You know that you are protected by the law. You know what you are dismissing the employee for. You know that you have that right. And basically, unfortunately, there are places that are even they're called the right to work stays, or the right to work place, which is you can let go anybody, you can dismiss anybody, and you don't have to give them a lot of explanation of the reason why you are dismissing that person. It's very sad. The employee really does not have the right to ask anything. They know that they're here one day and tomorrow one day. But companies that are good, now we're talking about the psychological aspect and the human aspect of all of this process. A lot of the companies, they just don't fire somebody and they just don't say anything. So even though you work in a company, or you work in a city or a state or a country that has the right to work a stay, a lot of companies still, out of pure respect, they always tell you the reason why they're letting you go, either because of job or downsizing, or because of performance, or whatever it is, so conflict of interest, or whatever might be the case. Most of the companies, they also they take the option to say this to the employees and say the reason why. And I think, in a way, even though you work in a state or a company that is the right to work a stay, is the fairness of the process. So on the grounds of fairness, the employee can also turn around and try to get a lawsuit, and basically say, wait a minute, it wasn't fair for you guys to fire me, because you guys are firing me for this situation of embezzlement, and actually I was not the person that embezzled. I wasn't the person that stole this money, or I wasn't the person that shared this private information of the company with another company, with the competition. That is what they call corporate crime, when you go and steal information or use information for the benefit of others. But if you have the proof that you were not the one, then basically the company is letting you go wrongfully, and then you can actually get a lawyer and you can win the case. So if you are dismissing somebody under those situations, more than ever before, as a manager, as a director of human resources, you have to do your case well. That's when corporate crime, talking about corporate crime in higher companies, they actually have private investigators. There are companies that all they do is they do that. They investigate corporate crime the same way they investigate like insurance crime, that you are claiming that you're disabled when you're not, is the same thing. They, before hiring somebody, they could actually hire a private investigator to provide an outside investigation. So the reason why they do it, even though it's expensive, is because you're getting a neutral party. that in the long run, again, like I was saying, documentation, documentation, documentation. If the person goes and file a lawsuit, then you say, hey, no, we went as far as hiring this company for this investigation. These were the findings. This was the conclusion, and they were able to, in fact, officially confirm that yes, you were the one that stole the money, or yes, that you were the one that stole this information from the company and gave it to the competition. So companies go as far as that, depending on what we're talking about. Companies, big companies, Coca-Cola, Apple, Google, uh, they have departments that investigate inside, and they also hire people outside that do investigation of the employees because of the amount of money, because of the secrets. Because if Apple is developing a new phone with new applications, with new everything, that's what it makes them in the cutting edge, that they create an advertisement, that they create a phone that everybody's making the line for and willing to pay out $1,200 for the phone, because this phone has things that nobody else has. But if that comes out, if somebody shares that information, if the information of the application is stolen, and even before the phone comes out in the market, then Samsung or another brand is doing the same thing, that is basically corporate crime. So a lot of that is the conflict of interest, the privacy rights that employees sign when they start working, depending on where they work. And a lot of companies has very strict companies, for example, in the health field, pharmaceutical field. Now with, for example, with COVID, all those secrecies of all those formulas of all of that, they're kept under wrap. And employees can file legal action if they share something, because it's the competition. You know, you want to make the money, you want to get the profit, and if people goes and share your secrets, then basically you get affected. You lose the profits, you lose the clients, you lose the coordination, the competition, because somebody else stole your secrets and gave them to somebody else. So that's what is so important, all those security issues, because we have to remember nothing that we do is actually private, especially if you, even if you're working at home, if you have a phone that is given by your corporate, by your company. There are a lot of companies now that they can have applications in the phone running officially to see if you are using the phone for what it's supposed to do, because it's one thing your company phone and another thing your personal phone. So you're not going to use your company phone to start testing your friends and sharing pictures and doing this and doing that and accessing Facebook or whatever, because that's not what the program is for. And the same thing with a company. That is the reason why company gives us their computers, is because they have things in the system that are able to track what we do. Why? Because during working hours with the company computer, we are supposed to do what we get hired to do for that company. If you work part-time somewhere else, or you have your own company part-time, you shouldn't be during your working hours of your other job using the company time to deal with your business or your other clients, or answer emails, or working on emails. All of that is grounds for dismissal, and a lot of people don't see it that way, and a lot of people use the computer. It is one thing that, for example, not even for shopping. Not, I mean, the company computer is for company business, and a lot of employees don't understand that. And a human resources can actually, a manager can put employee on probation, because they say, hey, you're supposed to be working 8 hours, and we notice that out of 8 hours you are spending more than 3 hours a day on shopping websites, or accessing Facebook, or chatting with your friends. So it's 3 hours that the employee is not producing, is not doing their job. So they have the right to track all of that. We signed that at the beginning when we got hired, and we tend to forget after the years. But if we forget, the companies don't do that. Then the last aspect that we are going to review in this chapter is everything that is what is called the interview and the exit process. They call it the exit interview. That is basically a meeting with the human resources employee, and a lot of times it could be with the human resources employee and the manager. That's when you have the opportunity to talk to the employee last, to listen to the information, making sure that you collect everything from the employee, especially unfortunately, the only thing that you cannot collect and you're hoping that the persons throw away is that if you require in your company uniforms, like for example, you have polo shirts with the company logo, and normally you give the employee 5, 6 shirts. That sometimes is kind of dangerous, unfortunately, but it's very difficult for a company to control, because if you're laying off somebody today and that person is wearing the company logo and the person is leaving, that person is still have 3, 4 shirts at home with the same company logo. So what it means is that the person can go and turn around and still be using those shirts and representing yourself. A lot of companies don't understand that, which is a big problem. A lot of companies don't understand that when you dismiss somebody, especially if it is really bad situation, you don't want this person to have anything outside the company with your logo on, with your label on, with your letterhead on. So that is the reason why a lot of companies have not transitioned into these new fancy company logos with everything. Because once the employee leave, you don't want that employee retains that possession. So that's the reason why a lot of companies are still with the traditional aspect of logoing, which is a name tag with the company logo. So when you're doing the interview, the exit interview, that employee is giving you the name tag that has the employee's name and that has the ID. So you know that when the person leaves the company, the person is not going to abuse the name tag, or that property that actually doesn't belong to them anymore. And it's the same case in the employee interview to collect the employee ID. If they have a special parking decal, sometimes when you escort the employee out of the building, which is the safest thing to do with an human resources employee or a security guard, a lot of companies use a special thing to remove the logo. So when the employee leaves the parking lot, the car doesn't even have the decal of the company. That allows the car to come into the load of to use the company facilities, because officially the person is not employee anymore. So there is a lot of things on the exit interview that a lot of companies tend to forget. And the problem is that now we have this employee that is no longer employee with with company possessions and their house. So it is very risky, and a lot of companies tend to ignore them, and then basically they forget it, he kept 3 shirts with the logo or whatever it is. But there are companies that actually gives the employee an envelope with a postal envelope already prepaid, and tell the employee, when you get home, we know we have it here documented that you had 3 shirts from the company. Please put them in this envelope and mail them back to us. We're giving you a week to do it. And this happens as well, for example, in the construction business, or certain type of business like that, that the employees has tools that you're giving them. You can actually give them a time and tell them to come back. So there are companies that, for example, let's say that the employee is gonna leave with a total of $2,000. There are companies that split the $2,000 and tell the employees, we're gonna give you $1,000 now, we're gonna give you $1,000 on Friday, for example. So on Friday you have to come here. Here we have a log that you have for shares from the company, that you have these tools, that you have these tools, that you have whatever, because ideally is that you always keep everything documented. So when the employees come back to the company and return the shares and return the tools and return whatever it is the employee was holding, then basically you take the equipment, you take all of that, and you give the other money. So all of these things are important to have in place, and all of these things are important to have them in the employee file. So ahead of time, the employee knows what to expect. God forgives, it doesn't matter that the person is going to retire, that the person is going to get laid off, that the person decides to resign. The guidelines are the same for everybody and are important to enforce them. Even if you were after 25 years, if you were 25 years in the company, most likely you have more than five shirts because they have given you shirts throughout your life, throughout the 25 years. All of that you need to return it. But we cannot go and ask for things to employee to return if up front we didn't tell the employee that need to return that. So all of that is going back. Everything is like I told you, is a cycle, always in a loop, non-stopping. That's what it is. The policies are into place, the policies are there to enforce, but you have to make sure that you provide that information up front, that you don't expect something from employees that you never told them in the first place. So all of this is something that is very important in the exit interview. Is, of course, if the company has the money, is offering out placement counseling. This is done through the human resources office, uh, especially if the employee was let go. Know the fall on their own. So for example, you're downsizing, you went bankruptcy, you're out of business, another company is absorbing your company, and this new company doesn't want you, you provide those outplacement counseling services. So you provide the revision of resume, the development of some covers letters, issue letters of recommendation. Human resources make sure that the employee collects at least 3 or 4 letters of recommendation from the top managers of even coworkers. All of this is important because you want the person to succeed. Even though the person is no longer with your company, you want the best for that employee, especially like I say, the employee is leaving for no fault of their own. So you have to provide resources to the employees that will help them to transition into another place, into move and everything. Especially if the company is closing down and the company is closing out of business, then the person is going to say, oh, I did this job for 10 years and this person is my supervisor. So now the person that is interviewing doesn't even have a reference because the person is saying, oh, wait a minute, but this company doesn't exist anymore. So I don't have a human resources department that I can call and ask for reference. And this manager doesn't even exist anymore. So you can basically here telling me all of this, but maybe I don't have a way to confirm that what you're saying is true. So that's what is important, the aspect of the layoff, uh, uh, when I was talking about the money, about the services, about how to do it, what you're going to give the employee, what money you're going to give the employee, how you're going to give it. All of that is very important. Especially we're talking about the last aspect that I was telling you, that it was downsizing, that you are letting go of the employee because of not fall of their own. You're leaving, you're closing down, your company went out of business, you're the owner of the company and you have been in business for 25 years and you want to retire and enjoy life and travel. Then basically what are you going to do with your company? You're closing the company, you give servants package to the employees, or you sell your company. But the fact that you're selling the company doesn't mean that the other one is going to keep everybody. So that's what is important. It is important to consider all of this about how you're going to release the employee, what are you going to do it, what are the security aspects of it, how you're going to help the employee with the physical aspect and the psychological aspect. And all of that basically is because it is the goodwill of the employee to let the company to let the employee go the right way. unless we're talking about, like I mentioned before, embezzlement or something really illegal that maybe in most occasions you're not even actually letting the person go. You're actually calling the police and making sure that the employee get arrested for what the legal action that the employee did. So it's all different streams, so depending on what you're doing, but regardless of what you're doing, the aspect of this dismissal and evaluation and retention from everything from the beginning to the end is just documentation, documentation. Make sure that you document everything the right way. You keep copies of right way, the way that you can avoid any legal actions in the future. This basically concludes the summary and the presentation of chapter 10. I apologize. I know I went just a little bit over, but I want to make sure that I was covering everything, that this chapter was very clear to you. It's a very important aspect of human resources. Regardless of which country you live and regardless of where you work, it's important for you to know your rights as an employee and actually your rights as a manager if that is the case. So I thought that it was very good at chapter to cover by itself and at the same time to spend a little bit of more time covering all these procedures. Does any of you have any questions about anything that I say, any of the information that I provided? Um, do you want to add something, an experience with your company, something that you faced when you have to lay off of somebody, or unfortunately, maybe when you went through that process? Anybody wants to share anything or add something to the information that I just shared with you? Really, everybody's very quiet today, like always. If you don't want to have anything to add about this topic, did you have an opportunity to review the information that I posted on the class, the other assignments of the upcoming weeks? Do you have any questions about any of that information, or everything is very clear? Do you still have any questions about the case reviews that you have to do? The first one already passed, nobody has submitted. The second one is this week. So I hope whoever hasn't submitted the case that you're working on it and you can submit everything. The one that had passed and this one that is due this week. If by any chance anybody wants to add the one that was already past due back in February and you guys have issues uploading it, because I noticed that Modly has like timing for assignments, let me know. I will go in, I will update the dates or something, the way that you can upload your assignments. But I had mentioned this before, the class has a lot of information. The class is very long. It has a lot of assignments that are due. So try not to fall behind. I know you're taking 3 classes. Time management is very, very important. Skills of time management is important for you to have. So make sure that you're able to meet all the assignments requirements of the classes that you're taking. Do you have any questions at all for me? Anything else that I can answer before we conclude today's meeting?
Uh, Sorry, ma'am.
Yes.
Did you provide the book for the students?
Yeah, the information of the book and how to get it is in the announcement of the class when the class started back in January. And then all the information is there for the book. It's the book that you should be working with for the past 8 weeks. All the assignments that I have done throughout the 8 weeks that we are already running is information related to the book. You don't have to use the book especially to answer your assignments. There is a lot of information out there. As a matter of fact, I do recommend that maybe you use other resources because it complements what you have read and also the presentations. But yes, the information of the book is there in the assignments, with the information on how to access the book and how to purchase the book. Some of you contact me and told me that you at the beginning, I don't know if you guys still have this issue, that there were issues for currency and financials and everything. That remember that I mentioned that through student services, through Sarah can help you to get the book. But the book is there. It's an electronic book. It's a book that you can get access to it really quickly, and especially with the information of the cases. Remember that you have to do 3 cases. All the cases are in the book, and out of the 3 cases, you need to do one presentation. Make sure you go to the sign-in sheet, please. Don't forget that. A lot of you have not put your name down, so it is important that you access the link. And let me see if I can access something really quick to show you. That you go to the Google folder that I created for you, and that you access the sign-in sheet, so you can basically put your name on it. Let me do something really quick before we go on. I can show you. Remember that the link is there to access the sign-in sheet, but it is important that you put the dates. I have the names of everybody that has, let me see if I can share the screen. Here it is. Can you see that page? Let's see if it would work. Why it didn't work? Do you see the sign-in sheet, or I'm not sure if I was able to. I tried to connect from. Let me see if you see that. Do you see the page, or you do not see the page?
It's
I
not.
was trying to show you the sign-in sheet that I have in the Google folder. Because there's very few of you that has signed that page. So I was just wondering if you could see that. I'm getting a blank screen. I don't know why, but that's what I was asking you, if you could see it.
Right now it is correct.
Okay, because that page is showing the that I have only, for the meeting on March 12th, only 3 students have signed, and then for the meeting of the end of April 23rd, only 2 students have signed. So if anybody else needs to sign and put the dates on when they want to do the presentation, remember that. anything else that I can answer any questions before we stop the recording or answer any other concerns that you might have? Okay, so if nobody has any questions, I'm going to stop the recording now. I want to